All right, here we have the Dutch defense. This is going to revolve around white's control, hopefully, of e4, and black's control of stopping e4. So, knight f6, knight c3, trying to push e4. At some point, e6. We're going to try and stop that with bishop to b4. So bishop to f4, solid, very much like London's system. Bishop to b4, stopping e4 because we have two guys to cover e4. He only has, well, nobody because that knight doesn't do anything. So he's going to have to build up to get there if he wants to play e4. He plays e3, solid, get your guys out, etc., etc. So, hey, we're going to stop e4, and what's going to really inconvenience him is bishop takes c3. B takes c3. Okay, fine. It's a standard, pawn position that occurs in a lot of queen pawn openings, like Nimzo Indian, for example, which just looks a lot like a Nimzo Indian, except that black has played f5. So, same business. Now that we've done that, we want to try and stop e4 by putting bishop b7 and controlling the white squares with that fianchetto bishop. So b6, he's like, okay, this guy's super aggressive, d5. Like, well, I'm not going to take him. He's going to undouble his pawns. So that'd be stupid. So I was thinking, well, you know what? Forget this guy. If you want to rock, let's rock. Castle. He could play d takes e6, d takes e6, queen takes d1, or queen takes d8, and then black plays rook takes d8, if that's what he wants to do. But apparently that's not what he wants to do. d6. He's trying to jam that bone right down your throat. I'm like, fine, whatever. The biggest mistake you could make is what? Pause the video if you need to think about it. Okay. The biggest mistake you could make is black here, reasonably, would be c takes d6. He'll just own the d6 square forever. So that's not happening. We're not taking that pawn. We don't need to take that pawn. That pawn is a shield. He cannot attack the d7 square if that pawn sits on d6. So, bingo. c5. Get some foothold in the center on, d4 to keep pieces out of there. And then look, that knight on b8 is going to go to c6 and have a tremendous home right there. That d pawn is not hurting black at all because we were already prepared to put that bishop on b7. So this is actually in the favor of black already. The computer I checked it, it was negative 1.00. It really likes black's position. So f3, again, he's trying to do e4. Well, we mentioned that earlier. Black's job is to stop e4. The move that stops e4 is what? Bishop b7. That will prevent that e4 business anytime soon. So he's like, okay, well, bishop to d3. He wants to push e4. We want him to not push e4 to our, to the best of our ability. Or if he does so, we want to win a pawn for doing it. Fine, it's all good. So, one of the things in Dutch defense, when black's development is fairly well advanced, his queen shifts from the black squares to the white squares. So he'll play queen to e8, and then, depending on the situation, q f7, q g6, or q h5. Any of those three squares can fit black's agenda depending on how things go. So, he gets greedy. We put that bishop on b7 to stop that e4 pawn. He plays e4. I'm like, okay, let's go. F takes e4. F takes e4. Well, now we have two guys attacking e4. He's only got one guy defending. That's our pawn if we want it. I'm the kind of guy, I'll take the free pawn. That's just me. So, I checked with the computer. The computer preferred bishop takes e4 here. I did not prefer bishop takes e4 because I thought if I capture the e4 pawn and then his bishop takes whatever I capture it with, if I have a choice of which of the two I want left over, the knight or the bishop, I want that bishop sitting on b7. So I captured knight takes e4. Computer doesn't like it. I don't care what the computer says. That bishop on b7 is, to me, a much more devastating piece, potentially, than that knight. I already have another knight just like it. But hey, the computer is the computer. Can't argue with the computer. But it's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of what does your experience and your skill tell you. My skill and experience tells me that bishop, if I have to retreat it to b7, is a tough customer. And that's why I chose to take with the knight first. I don't care what the computer says. But that's just one of those things. So anyway, bishop takes e4. He's like, he has to get aggressive. He's just given us a pawn for almost nothing. So he's got to get aggressive. He's got to do something with this activity that this pawn sacrifice has given him. Otherwise, he'll just get ground down in a losing endgame. That's what he's looking at. Now, this is a game in 3 minutes for each side, so you're probably not going to be an endgame of that kind of way, but you never know. So qg4, very, very aggressive. That's what you should be doing. Covers his weakness of bishop takes g2, because if he doesn't cover that, that's a problem. So if he would have played like knight f3, well, maybe I take bishop takes f3, pocket the pawn, and go, you have nothing. Anyway, so qg4, tremendous move. I played qf7, basic stuff. You know, I'm going to make a threat, you're going to respond to it, and what are you going to do? Not the greatest move, but hey, it's a game in 3 minutes. You got to make fast moves and solid moves, and that's what I've been making. All right, he plays good move, knight to h3, guards his bishop because I was threatening to take it. No problem. But I saw, hey, you know what? I can hit this queen skewering this knight. So bishop goes back to f5. Have a chance to wreck his structure, something wicked. Now, he has the option. Now, he's also threatening to take my rook. If I play bishop takes h3, he plays queen takes a8, the rook. I play queen takes f4. I'm winning this, but I'm already winning. So rather than complicate an already winning position, I chose, let me just go the safe way and just play knight to c6. He has literally nothing. There's nothing for black. There's no weakness for black. So white can't really attack anything. He's sitting here. His bishop is eating granite at d6. That pawn that he shoved forward is blocking his bishop from doing anything. He can't play bishop to e5. I would just chop it off. So he's come out of this position into something that's an absolute nothing. He's got men on the board, but he's not really doing anything. Black is in control and is dictating how things are going at this point. So, got nothing better to do. Castle, great move. Can't argue with that. But I'm winning. So, when you're winning, you want to simplify the game and do more winning and win faster. So, bishop takes h3, get rid of the knight. Simplify it, wreck his structure, just, make this bad for him. Queen takes, that's fine. I'm not worried about that. So here I have posted up, again, queen to g6. I'm going to double rooks on the f-file. Black has solved all the problems. All of his pieces are out, essentially, except for the rook in the corner. There's no pawn weaknesses to attack for white. He's just really bummed out at this point. I'm making things good. He's got a black square bishop, so we're going to be able to maneuver at will on the white squares. There's nothing he can do about it. This is one of those things that my dad used to always say, ha ha ha, you got that bishop. I'm just going to go in the opposite color. Okay, you can't argue with him. When he's right, he's right. So he's trying to do the same thing. I want to double on the f-file. He wants to double on the f-file. I'm like, I'm winning. I don't care. I'm good with it. So again, rook to f5. Why? Because he has a black square bishop. I don't want to go to a black square. I don't think about it. I go to a white square. He's got a black bishop. I go to a white square. His bishop cannot mess with anybody on my team. I'm good with that. So he's going to double rooks, and so am I, as this should be. So we're all good, but he's running into problems because my knight is going to be really annoying if he doesn't watch it. This is a mistake. G3 for white is terrible. That pawn on G2 was much better, guarding the rook and also allowing the queen to guard the rook, so the bishop could move and reposition without losing material. Because if he moved his bishop, for example, rook takes f3, he plays rook takes f3, and if I play rook takes f3, he goes queen takes f3, and then he takes over control of the f file while his bishop has moved to get a better position. But G3 prevents that from ever occurring. That is a really, really bad move. The computer doesn't call it a really bad move, but in the human mind, it's a terrible move because he's just undercut his own position. It's much worse long term than it actually is in a tactical computer line of analysis. Because he's let that rook, unguarded. Knight to e5 comes in, killer move, because I got a tempo. If he wants to take my knight, bishop takes knight, I'm going to play rook takes rook. I'll just win the exchange, and you don't have jack squat going on for you. That's just the reality. So, well, he's not crazy. He defends his rook. He should probably have gone rook to f2, tomato, tomato. Hey, you already know I'm the kind of guy that'll take the pawn, while I'm really the kind of guy that's going to play knight takes rook check. Most people are. It's hard to not do it. So I did it. Knight takes, whatever. Rook takes, fine. Problem is, again, that rook has only one defender. I have two dudes attacking that rook. Skewer, X-ray, right to the rook through the bishop. So, I don't know how I missed this in the game. E5 and he's toast at this point. I play E5 and he is dead. There's nothing he could do. The bishop cannot move. But, oh well, it's a game in 3 minutes. Fast things happen. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't play E5. Whoops. QF6, good move. Not as good as E5, but still a very good move. He's like, oh, I saw that. Let me get out of here. Well, that's not the right place to go. He probably should have gone to F2 or D3. If he goes to F2, he could play like bishop to E3, and he's, bishop guards the thing. Everything would guard that rook. So, whatever. That's all fine. The problem he's running to now is that if he moves his bishop, rook to F1 check leads to mate. That's why rook to E3 is not the right move. Like I said, well, rook to D3 would be okay. Rook to F2 would be good because, like I said, you could play, again, bishop to E3 and retreat and not give up just unilateral control of the file. At this point, anything I shove at the bishop can't move. I'll checkmate him if he moves. So that's what happens. G5. There's nothing he could do. He can't move his bishop because rook to F1, check. Queen takes F1 is forced. Queen takes F1 is checkmate. So that's why rook to E3 was not good. You're looking at it right there. So, hey, he's going to lose the bishop. There's nothing you could do. You got to lose it. So he's going to try and generate counterplay. QB7. He doesn't have a choice. That's the best move available to what he could do. Otherwise, he could just resign. But, I mean, where's the fun in that? Lucky for me, he didn't, because this game is really, instructive. So, QB7, I'm like, well, come on. I told you, I'm the kind of guy that takes a pawn. I'm the kind of guy that takes a rook for a knight. And I'm the kind of guy that takes a bishop for a pawn. Pawn takes bishop. Okay. So, he goes, of course, G takes F4 is the right move. Hey, if I get stupid, play queen G6 check. He's threatening to go rook G3 and he wins my queen. So, can't be too careful. So, take care of business. Rook takes F4. Threatening nasty stuff with rook to F1 check. So, I told you, He was threatening to play rook g3 if I played queen g6. Well, I took his pawn. He goes rook to g3 check. I'm like, okay, now don't get crazy. People get crazy. They do stuff like king to f7. Horrible move. Get in the corner 99 times out of 100. There it is. Safety, safety, safety. So, I mean, he's played a bunch of good moves. He's dead. He's going to lose if I'm solid and know how to take care of my business. I do, but he doesn't know that. And this is for teaching other guys like yourself how to win the one game. This game has been won for a little while, but we're going to cash this in, and that's the key. It's all about cashing it in efficiently. Queen takes d7 is objectively a losing move, but he is dead if he doesn't take it. He'll just be dead differently with no chances. At least, if you're going to be dead with chances or dead without chances, I'll take dead with chances. I've seen weird stuff, and you've probably seen it if you looked in chess games long enough. You've seen guys return from the grave like Dracula. So, yes, queen takes d7 objectively loses. The computer sees it. I also saw that. The easiest way to stop this is to play queen to f7 for black. And he has nothing. You know, this is just that you'll cash this in with like rook to g8, and there's nothing he could do. It's going to be slow, boring, and ugly. Okay? Hey, and that wins. Slow, boring, and ugly is a heck of a way to win. But as your experience goes up and your skill increases, you're going to be able to do what I'm going to do and show you. So, instead of queen to f7, I'm going to force this guy. The forcing moves, the best forcing move in the world. Rook to f1 check. So, everyone should be able to see this. He has only one reply. He doesn't have any other choices. King to g2 is the only thing he can do. Now, the problem we have, you look at this queen on f6, it can't really get to the back rank of, say, a1. So it cannot get to the opposite end of the board. But if we check him in sequence, we're going to change the geometry from the queen being on a black square and diagonals to being on a white square and white diagonals. And watch this. This is really killer. So we hit him with queen to f2 check, forces him again. He's got one move, king to h3, so let's go ahead and go there. Now we're going to reposition the queen with check on a white square instead of the black square. So it was on f6. Now we're going to f5. Queen to f5 check. This is the reposting of the queen. This is going to give maximum flexibility. Now, he can't go forward, really. If king goes to h4, we're going to checkmate him. It's really basic stuff. So, I'm going to show you. King goes to h4. Trust me, he's going to get checkmated. I'll show it to you when we're done. So he can't go forward. It's a fairly basic checkmate. Again, so that forces him. Since king to h4 leads to checkmate, king to g2 is the only choice. And that's what he did. Now, I was calculating that rook to f2 check is probably winning. And it is. It actually checkmates him in 3 or 4 moves, whatever it is. But I saw something even better. You know, rook to f2 check forces, he cannot play king to g1 in response. Because if we go rook to f2 check, king to g1, queen to b1, now that that diagonal is open and the back rank is available, queen to b1 is checkmate. So king to g1 doesn't work. Rook to f2 check, the only move he has is king to h1. However, we're going to get him again because we switched to white squares. Queen to e4 check also leads to checkmate. There's nothing he could do. If he goes to g1, queen to e1 is checkmate. If he doesn't move his king and moves rook to g2, well, you should see what happens there. It's the same result. So, I saw all that and go, hey, oh, I saw something even better. Now, see if you can figure out what move is even better. And pause the video and you'll see. Okay, I'm going to assume that you guys have paused the video and you're ready to see it. Either you didn't see it or you did see it. And this is what happened. This is the best move there is. Forcing. There's no response. He can't move anywhere. All he can do is take the rook. So, take the rook. King takes g1. Hopefully you see the move. It doesn't matter how fast you see the move. If it takes you a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it doesn't matter. If it takes you 5 seconds, that's fine. There's no extra points for seeing it fast. You must see the winning move, and you have to do it at your speed. Don't try to be somebody else. If you try to be somebody else, you're going to fail. Just like if someone else tries to be you, they will fail. I cannot be you, you cannot be me. You cannot be Garry Kasparov, you cannot be Bobby Fischer, you cannot be Magnus Carlsen. But none of those three can be you either. That's the thing. So do what you can. See what you see. Winning ugly but effective counts just the same as winning with a brilliant rook sacrifice. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It's awesome when you play rook g1 check and people see you playing this move. They're like, oh man, that feels good. It does. It feels terrific. But it doesn't matter. In the end, you win, draw, or lose. And if you win the game, how you win the game is a bonus. So don't get caught up. You're not going to be able to win every game in a brilliant fashion with a terrific move like rook g1 check, which is awesome. I'm not going to lie to you, it's terrific. But your goal is to get better and to play better moves and hopefully win more games. You're going to play great games where you lose. You're going to play some really strong players. You're going to lose to those guys because you played well and they just played better. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to congratulate yourself for playing well, even if you don't win. Because that's how you get to be a good player, is that you're going to play good players and lose and lose and lose. And then at some point, you get good enough to win. And when you play good players and win, that's something special. So it's tremendous to play rook g1 check like you saw here. That's an outstanding move, no question. But this is a bonus. Like, don't get caught up in trying to play this all the time. I didn't plan this. This is just play your game to the best of your ability. Learn what you know and do your business. You know, it's going to happen when it happens. It's nice if it happens tomorrow. It probably won't. You never know. Do what you can. Have fun. And this is the kind of move that is fun because when you have this, you can show your buddies, hey, dude, look at this move that I played. You're not going to believe it. And they're going to say, well, what did you do? Oh, the only thing better than you playing this move is showing your buddies. Just look at this move I played. Unbelievable. The killer rook sacrifice. It's awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you again in the next one. Okay, now I'm going to show you the things I've told you about earlier. So when we got into this position, he played queen takes d7 because this gives him some counter chances to recover the game if I don't do everything perfect. So we hit him, rook to f1 check. He's forced king to g2. He has no other choice. And we did the transfer on him. So we hit him again, queen to f2, forcing him to h3. He doesn't have a choice. That's the only legal move, which that gives you the idea you're on the right spot. So hit him again, queen to f5. We've switched now from f6 black squares to f5 white squares. This gives us the flexibility to get to that first rank, you know, at b1. So check. Now, I told you he can't come forward. If he comes forward, we're going to checkmate him. Pause the video if you need to see how we're going to checkmate him. Okay, you're back, so hopefully you're ready to see it. Rook to f4 check. This is what happens when your king comes forward. He's brutalized by enemy pieces. He can't move horizontally, you know, along the 4th or the 5th ranks because the queen and the rook block him. So he's blocked also by the queen on h3. The only thing he's got left Rook to g4 is the only legal move. And I hope that you can see quickly that this is an easy checkmate. It doesn't matter how fast you see it, you just need to see it. See it in your mind, then play it on the board. That's the sequence that you need to handle to win games like this. So, we checked him on h3. You saw what happens when he comes to h4. It was terrible. So, he goes back to g2 as he should. And this is where, you know, I unleash the bonus move, rook g1 check. Fantastic as it is. But we have a straight mate anyway with rook to f2 check. So we got him because he only has two choices. He's got king g1 or king to h1. Now, if he goes to g1, what do you play here? Pause the video if you need to. All right. I'm going to assume that you paused the video and have looked at it and need to see whatever it is that you didn't see, or confirm that what you did see was correct. He's completely toast at this point. It's checkmate in 1, queen to b1. That's checkmate, all right? So, rook f2 check, king to g1 is just a straight up mate in 1, not too difficult. So, he goes king to h1, same story. We've got him. It's just a matter of, do you see it? If you need to look at it to find the winning move, pause the video. Okay? I'm going to assume that you either saw it or you didn't see it. And let's go through and see what it is. So you go there. This was why the queen had to go and be switched from dark to light. You hit him with queen to e4 check. It doesn't matter what he plays, he's checkmated. If he moves king to g1, it's a one-move checkmate. You have two options. You can play queen to e1 checkmate or queen to b1 checkmate. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's checkmate. All right, so king to g1 doesn't work when you check him on e4. The only thing he's got left, rook to g2. Again, you should see this relatively quickly, but it doesn't matter. See it if you can. If you don't see it, pause the video, figure it out, and then we'll come back. All right, so hopefully you guys have looked at this already. It's pretty basic. Queen takes g2, checkmate, game over. So it doesn't matter how good you are, how strong you are. You can learn from anything. This is one of those examples. There's all kinds of things that were, you know, in our favor against the white king. It's just a matter of every possibility we had covered, you know, inside the brain. That's the key. But it's because you do all the work and there's a lot of experience involved. The experienced players make a result like this game look much easier than it actually is. Because you have to see these things and see the mistakes that people make. You're going to make them yourself. Everyone has. And if anyone hasn't made those mistakes, they just started the game recently. That's the thing. Don't sell yourself short. If you say you can do it or say you can't do it, it's the old coach's rule, you're right. So say that you can do it and figure out how to make it happen. It doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in a week. It's a long process of proper study and taking care of business. And so when you do that, you have these opportunities like this game. When I played this game, I had no idea what was going to happen. I go, hey, I'm going to play a game, do the best I can, see what happens. This guy was a good player. If he wasn't a good player, then you don't have this kind of result because he's going to play bad moves. This guy didn't play bad moves. He played some good moves that were tough, and he made me earn the victory. He's sitting there. If I mess up the slightest bit, he checkmates me on g7. It's just that simple. So we go back here. We look at this. Hopefully, when you see this position, you can mentally understand and recreate what's happening. Look at it again, see what you think. See if you missed something, or you need to look at it again to see how you should do it. Do it as many times. It doesn't matter if it takes you 1 viewing or 50 viewings. The important thing is that you must understand what is going on. And when you understand it, you become more powerful. That is the goal, to become more powerful in chess. Just that simple. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I'll be glad to see you in the next video. All right? Thanks a lot, man.